I apologize for being a little late with this one. I know I said I was going to do a full-fledged preview of Lockdown, but I got really busy this weekend doing various other things with friends and work and other things of that nature. So, yeah, really good weekend, but I didn't have time to do my Lockdown preview video. And overall, I got to admit, I really don't care all that much about the card, except for one match. And not that the card's terrible, it's just, I just don't really care all that much, except for the main event, which I'll get into later. But I wanted to talk about another match that's happening on pay-per-view in a couple weeks at Extreme Rules, and that is the John Cena versus Brock Lesnar pay-per-view match. I think when Lesnar F5 Cena, the night of his return, people were expecting that match to be built up over the course of a year like Rock and Cena was, but they're doing it right now at the first pay-per-view right out of the gun. And normally I don't approve of that, but I'll give the WWE credit for doing this. Last year I made the comment that the April pay-per-view, or the post-WrestleMania April/May pay-per-view, normally is just WrestleMania Part 2, so I'm not that interested in it. And I even said last year, it's like, they could drop that pay-per-view and I wouldn't miss it, because it's just the WrestleMania rematches. There's nothing grand or special going on. You're basically just ordering WrestleMania Part 2. They ask you to pay $60 for the show, and then you pay an additional $40 4 weeks later for all the rematches. I'm like, I can live without that show. But some of the past ones, like going back a few years, when it was Backlash, you had matches like Goldberg and Rock. That to me is a big attraction that's worth ordering a pay-per-view for. I remember in 2004 they finally did Orton and Foley one-on-one, and that was a big match that I wanted to see, so that was a worthy attraction. I think the last one they had, where it really felt like the April pay-per-view had something special attached to it, was when Hogan and Shawn Michaels teamed up to form a tag team. That was a pretty cool attraction to have. So, yeah, but not since then. The April pay-per-view has been really lacking as far as major attractions go. Brock Lesnar's return match against John Cena, that's a major attraction. That might be worth checking out Extreme Rules for, just to see how Lesnar does. My only concern really is what kind of shape is Lesnar in, because he doesn't look like the genetic freak that he used to. But we'll see. He has a few weeks to get into shape, and hopefully everything works out, and hopefully he does really well. I'm not the biggest fan of Cena. I'm not the biggest fan of Lesnar, but I do think Lesnar's return has added a huge spark to the product. That's, there's an air of unpredictability and just an air of excitement because he hasn't been there for so long. And even when he left, he'd only been around for 2 years, so we didn't really get our fill of him either. So having him back involved with things is really makes things exciting. And it does make me wonder, though. It's like, wow, is Cena going to job again? That's kind of weird. I mean, I wouldn't think that Lesnar's going to lose his first match upon his return, but, stranger things have happened. But for right now, count on Lesnar winning that match, which would be kind of strange to see Cena lose 2 big pay-per-view matches in a row to past stars. That would be fascinating and something we're talking about later, but we'll get there when we get there. So, yeah, Cena and Lesnar, that's an exciting match, definitely. And the other major main event that I wanted to talk about is happening tonight. It's the Lockdown main event. Bobby Roode versus James Storm. And, kudos to TNA. I've spoken out against a lot of the things that they're doing. I've crapped on the Lockdown concept before because I hate gimmick pay-per-views. In fact, this match is so good that it makes me wish that it was the only cage match on the card, because it's the only one that, truly deserves it based on everything that they've done. And this feud is one of the few times where it's felt like TNA's actually had a direction. Because we knew back in November that they were building up to Storm and Roode in a big rematch, and they got it to Lockdown. I mean, that's good for them. I mean, they had a couple hiccups along the way. Like, they had them wrestle in non-title matches, and they had them wrestle in tag matches on TV, which I can't stand. But other than that, they've done a pretty good job of keeping them apart from each other and building to this pay-per-view match. Building around Bobby Roode's turn, the beer money split, and everything that's happened in between. And both guys have done a really good job of stepping up into their roles. Bobby Roode is one of the best heels you could ask for at this point. I think James Storm has done a really good job of stepping up into that top face spot. And I'm very happy for both guys because, quite honestly, since 2008 when Beer Money formed, they've been my favorite part of the company because, I love tag teams and I just thought they were great. And, even when TNA was just downright terrible, like in 2010, the Hogan Bischoff debacle, at least I could say, it's like, well, that Beer Money Machine Guns series is pretty damn good. So, Beer Money, it almost feels like they're being rewarded for being the best part of TNA for as long as they were. And they're getting a big singles match for the World Heavyweight title in the main event of their second biggest pay-per-view of the year, with months of build-up put into it. So I am expecting this to be a very good match and a very emotionally charged one. I hope it delivers, and I hope TNA doesn't do anything stupid to ruin it, because right now it's like that is the most... that's the match I'm looking forward to the most right now in wrestling. I can't think of another one on the horizon that's got me like chomping at the bits. It's been this one, and I've been really excited for it. And I mean, everything about it has been really good. Like even the video packages and everything have been some of TNA's best work actually. And the comment I made after that amazing segment that I had on to close Impact this past week, my comment was, "This feud is WrestleMania worthy." And I think that's a fair description, because it has all the elements that you would want in a major burn-off, big event caliber match. Has great characters, great storyline, long-term build-up. The personal element is there. The history is there. I mean, it's just been really good, and it's been the shining positive about TNA. No matter what other stupid stuff they've done, and yes, they're doing. Lethal Lockdown, they've got Garrett and Gunner as tag team champions, which are not tag team champions, but as the captains of the Lethal Lockdown teams. And, they might be the worst War Game / Lethal Lockdown captains ever. But so you got that. Angle and Hardy will be a good match, but has no bite to it storyline-wise. It's just kind of like, oh, my kid likes Hardy, so I hate him. And that's kind of the justification for the whole thing. The tag title match is rushed, for all the care that they put into the main event. They didn't really do that with the Guns return. I felt like the Guns return should have been this pay-per-view where they face Mexican America and then build them up to Slammiversary to face Joe and Magnus, but they're rushing it just because they have to have a tag title match on the show for some reason. There's a TV title match, don't care. Morgan and Crimson. Morgan and Crimson, they basically has the same storyline as Root and Storm, only nowhere near as good. God, what else is on here? There's a Knockout title match. I don't think they built up Velvet all that well. She's just kind of like... Yeah, I mean, they have build up going back to November, but they didn't really do a good job of promoting her as the protagonist during that time, so yeah, Lockdown's just pretty, ordinary. I mean, I give them credit for not over-cluttering the card like they usually do for this damn thing. There's no ridiculous, Cuffed in the Cage or, Queen of the Cage or escape matches and all the other, ridiculous clusterfuck matches that they normally do at this pay-per-view just to make all the cage matches different. But it's got one really good match, and that's the main event, and I hope it delivers, and hopefully Lockdown turns out to be a pretty good show overall. I am ordering it tonight, so I might order Extreme Rules in a couple weeks, too. I'm actually proud of myself. I've only skipped one between WWE and TNA. I think I only watched, 7 pay-per-views last year between both companies, and this year I've seen every pay-per-view except for Against All Odds, so I'm pretty proud of myself. I'm actually keeping up on this shit and watching it, so, yeah, hooray for me, but... Yeah, here's hoping Root and Storm turns out to be really good. Here's hoping Lesnar and Cena turns out well in a couple weeks. And if you're going to watch the shows, hope you all enjoyed. I'll be back next week with my next video, and see you later.